Do you think you have no time for your training and that anything you try to do anyway, it's not going to work? So, where's the point to actually doing it? Today, I will be talking with Eli, which is a coach since 5 years. He's been seeing a lot of different people, and as he would say, those are just excuses. We also would talk a lot about all the mistakes you can do. Of course, you have to reach that point where you are so low that you decide to make a change. But at the same time, it's also good to not do all the mistakes by yourself. So Eli is the right person to go because he has done a lot of them and he will definitely tell you what is going to work and what it's not going to work. It's also very important to set up yourself for success in the sense that you must be strong physically but also mentally. And today we're going to touch a lot of things that relate to these 2 points. I'm Ijar and this is Athlete. Hi, Elia. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Good to be here. Eleanor and Elijah, Ellie and Eli. I mean, this is meant to be. We got the two sides. We're going to talk about the mind and the body, tapping into our emotions, but also using our brain. We're going to get into it. It's going to be good.
Yes, thank you very much for coming today. It's really good because we have so many topics we can cover together, and I'm really curious to know a little bit more about you. So the first thing that strikes to me a lot, you wrote a sentence in your profile, and you said you already did all the mistakes that your clients may have not done or may have done not yet. So I think it's a really compelling way of attracting people. And I would like to know a little bit more about this. Tell us, what are those mistakes?
Yeah. I mean, anything from not prioritizing sleep for recovery, from drinking too damn much and that negatively affecting workouts, to eating the wrong things or eating too much, training in the wrong way, working out too much or too little. I've tried so many different modalities with all this stuff, and over the years, you just kind of hack away at the unessential as far as what's too much or what's too extra and what's the fluff, and you start to add in more of, hey, this works really well. I'm just going to keep doing this and not deviate. Hey, this works really well too. I'm going to add that, and there's no reason to change it. And you just slowly build out your perfect routine and your perfect plan, and that really is one of the biggest values of working with the coach is that exact idea that they've made the mistakes, they've seen the pitfalls, and I have clients all the time. They're like, "Hey, I heard this is good," and I'm like, "Nope, that's dumb." They're like, "Hey, do you want to try this?" "Nope, I tried that, it sucks." So it's like all those decisions they might make on their own. They might spend 3 or 5 months doing those things. That really didn't work. We just saved 5 months, and we put 5 months into really intelligent training. So that's definitely one of the biggest values of working with someone in any space, not even just in fitness. If someone's a coach or a mentor in a certain area of life and they've put in 5, 10, 15 years, there's no way they haven't seen all different sides of it. Whereas if someone's just coming in on their day one, it's like, let me save you the trouble. But it was a little broad, a little vague. I guess some more specific stuff would be, as far as training goes, definitely making it too complicated. I made it way, way, way too complicated early on. I tried to get all fancy with periodization, and I'm listening to all these power lifters and strength coaches, and there's a lot of good information there. But for the general public, for the general population, just improving on the same weights for the same exercises for many, many, many weeks in a row, slowly adding a rep or two. Okay, now that we've got 10, we're going to add some weight. Inherently, now you're doing a set of 6 or 7. We're going to hit that weight until we get 10 and then add some weight. It's boring. It's simple, but it works. And that's a big thing too. It's not even, again, it's the simplicity is what works. Like one of the biggest mistakes I made back in the day was just ADD, just trying different stuff. I'd see an article. Oh, that sounds really cool. I'll go try that. And then see a different article. Oh, I'll mix them together. And then I'm like doing 19 programs at once and trying to make them all work. It's like the biggest thing I can do is keep someone on the straight and narrow. If every day we can take one step forward, that's a great way to get to our destination versus a step forward, a step back. I'm over here. No, I like this one better. No, I like this one better. This is where people really get messed up. So
Yeah, consistency. So simplicity and consistency over time.
100%. And in today's day and age of flashy, how can we grab attention on reels? Like most fitness reels that do the best, it's something like over the top, someone doing a backflip into a pistol squat, into a dragon flag. And it's like, it looks cool, but it's a party trick. There's no, that's not a real program, right? Like no one's actually doing that for sets and reps and progressing on that. But people will see things like that. They get distracted, and the simple, the boring stuff is not very sexy. It's not very appealing even to most. Um, but it's what's gotten me the best results. Like a lot of people, they say, "Hey, it's got to be fun. You got to enjoy it." For me, I enjoy results. I would much rather do a boring plan for 3 months and have an outstanding result than have a workout program that, oh, this is so entertaining. And then 90 days go by and I'm like, I look the same, haven't gotten any stronger, haven't really improved at all. It's like, well, what was the point of the last 3 months? So I'm a big advocate of, again, the simple, the boring. Now, if you're training intensely and really pushing yourself, to me, there's nothing boring about that. Like if you're really getting after it, putting it all on the line, taking sets to failure, I don't know how that could be boring, even if it is on the same exercise for weeks and months at a time. So there is a way to make it fun and make it exciting and make it challenging. But as far as the parameters you're following, most legit professionals in this industry, they'll tell you the same thing. The simple and the boring stuff works.
Yeah, it reminds me. I saw a reel the other day. There was this woman. She was showing the progress she made to achieve a backflip. And there's nothing wrong about that. But look, she was overweight. I mean, I'm a fan of saying, okay, it doesn't matter. You know, you can do a split even if you're overweight. It's not the problem. But when I was looking at her trying to do the backflip, the first times, like, I don't know if she would fell on her neck or, that would
Mm,
have been like so bad. You don't have the muscles to like wrap yourself up and keep yourself like, because even folding is an art. You need to know how to fall.
yeah,
I know this because like in figure skating I used to do that, and you need to know how to fall because you're gonna fall. So it doesn't matter. You don't have to seek perfection. You need to fall, but you need to know. You have to roll on the side. Otherwise, like I did, you break your wrist or something more. Um, but like I was looking at this and I was like, oh my god, like do you really need to do a backflip? Like why are you doing that? Are you a gymnast? I don't think you're going to compete, right? So sometimes, as you said, like it doesn't have to be fancy. Of course, everybody looks at that reel and it's like, oh, I want to learn how to do a backflip. If she made it, I can do it as well. It's so
yeah,
dangerous.
yeah, yeah. I've seen similar things where it's someone really overweight and they're even with the trainer and they're like having them hang from pull-up bars and doing box jumps on like a 12-inch box. And I'm like, and everyone in the comments, they're all very supportive, like, wow, that's so amazing. Really, it's sketchy. Like if that person falls, and I've seen that, I've seen people that don't have any business doing pull-ups, box jumps, like athletic, explosive things where it's inherently easier if you're lighter. If someone's really heavy, it's like there's just no reason to do that right now. It's not a knock on them.
Mm.
It's not like, oh, that movement's not for you. It's just like just be smart.
Yeah,
Just
on the
do what
joints.
makes sense for your body type and where you're at for your joints. I've seen trainers run clients through movements where it's like if they can't keep their back straight, hinging, there's no reason to do hinge movements. Let's do something else. But they'll try and force it and force it and force it. It's like you can tell, like, can we stretch for a minute and really focus on it and get that technique? Or is this just off the table for like the next 5 months until you loosen up? If it's the latter, let's just do something else. So yeah, absolutely. It needs to make sense. I'm big
It's
on training making sense.
yeah, it's a little bit unpopular thing right now because it's a good thing that now you can see models that are not anorexic. You can see people with normal bodies, and not having to hide. It's fine. But on the other side, we are going, I think, a little bit over
Mm,
with this, that we are making things even more dangerous. I'm just making an example. Always like in figure skating, I remember I started as an adult. And at some point, we started jumping. And I remember someone asked from my group to our coach, like, do you think we will ever be able to do a double or a triple even? And like she said, yeah, you can start doing it, but you will see at some point you have to stop because you're too old. And when you just land on your knees, on your feet after one jump after the other, it's too much. Your body will not able to handle it. So don't even try to do it. So, and you think, wow, but it looks very good when you see a 15 years old doing, now they do quads. It's
Wow.
just like nonsense. But even if you try, like really like just a double, which is not much rotation, it's still, you cannot do it. And you try and then you get injured. And then you're like, what, 35, 40 years old? And what do you do? It's,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
a different
Another
story.
example that would be kind of similar is like CrossFit gets a bad rap for similar things. I do think that it's gotten better over the years from what I've heard. But if it's someone's first day in the gym, they're like, look, I haven't worked out in the last 3 to 5 years. I've been pretty sedentary. And they're like, understood. We're doing box jumps and double unders. And then we're going to do the rower and then jump over the rower. Like, it's just a recipe for disaster. And I've had a lot of clients that have gotten totally beat up, dinged up, injured. I had one guy, he actually fell trying to do ring pull-ups and landed on his leg. And like, I don't remember what the exact injury was, but he was jacked up. Like, it put him out of commitment for months. It's like, all that took was someone having a little bit of foresight. Can we um, change this movement to where they still feel included? Can we do a rack chin up? Can we do something where it's similar but just modified? Like there's no shame or anything negative in modifying a movement or modifying a routine to fit the individual.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think we should really have a focus on this instead of the saying everybody can do anything. No, you cannot.
It's not true. It's just not true. It sounds nice. It sounds
Yeah,
nice.
it sounds inclusive, right? But it's not really like on the danger of you being injured. Like I wouldn't take that. So I also, you told me last time that I mean, you look pretty fit right now, and I didn't see any picture of you, but you told me you lost a lot of weight, which I cannot believe still. How did you do it? How was this experience?
Yeah, yeah. I need to post some of the older pictures up so it's there to see. Actually, I do have one of them pinned at the top of my Instagram of me at my biggest, which was 219, 220, soft, doughy. You can see it in my eyes. It's so crazy when I look back on a lot of old pictures I would take in the gym because I've always trained. I've trained for the last 10 years, even when the eating was off, even when I was drinking too much or doing this or that. Working out has always been in the equation. So I have all these pictures of me in the gym, and there's just this look in my eye, like I know I'm so off track. I might not have known it in that moment, but there's this kind of deathly gauntlet. It almost says like, help me. Like I look back on these old pictures and my eyes are like, someone shame me so I can snap out of it. I need someone to say, dude, you look terrible. You look awful. Like ultimately that is what happened. I found some content of people, I mean, legit fat shaming. I know it's kind of a negative thing, but I found people saying, why would you choose that? And that stung because at the end of the day, extreme medical conditions aside, every single person on planet Earth is choosing to eat how much or how little they eat, and they're choosing to move how much or how little they're moving. So when I heard those words, why would you choose that? I was like, holy shit. Whether
Yeah.
it was intentional or not, the reason I did it in the first place was because I wanted to get as strong as possible. I just wanted every 45-pound plate I could find and put it on the bar, deadlift as much weight as I could, squat as much weight as I could. And I thought, hey, let's just take the shortcut. Let's just get massive and it'll make this faster, which it did in the short term. But then it took so long to get the weight off that it ended up being a huge delay in my overall progress. But yeah, I got up to 220 pounds, 220 pounds. And once I had that awakening, that come to Jesus moment realization, I just kind of flipped the switch. The weight training didn't really change. Like no matter what anyone's goal is, weight training should always be the foundation that we're standing on. That should always be priority number one. So I still lifted 4 to 6 times a week. I started doing steady state cardio damn near every day, but at least 3 to 5 times a week as a minimum. My go-to for that was putting the treadmill on an incline, like a 10 or a 12 speed on 3 to 3.5 miles per hour, and just putting on a show. I went through the entire Lost series, watched some movies. Like, the cardio thing is crazy to me that that's one of the harder things for people to get behind with all the devices we have. I'm like, you can literally put on a show and you're like a hamster in a freaking hamster wheel. Like, you're just doing, like, the machine is walking you for you. You're not thinking right foot, left foot. Like, you're on a track, you're on the incline. You can't even really recreate that in nature because it's going to be up and down on the hills. You're walking up this infinite uphill. You're burning a shit ton of calories. So, huge fan of that style of steady state cardio. So I was doing that. And then the biggest thing is tracking macros, tracking calories. If you're not weighing out and measuring your food, knowing exactly how many carbs, fats, and proteins you're having, knowing exactly how many calories you're having, it'd be like going in the gym and you're just blindfolded. You're going bird box mode and just grabbing random weights. Like, oh, damn, this one's heavier. Like, that wouldn't make sense. So eating random foods when you want a specific result doesn't make sense. Eating random amounts of food, even more specifically. So tracking the macros, measuring the food was definitely, out of all those things, the biggest tool. Then lost 60 pounds, got all the way down to 160. I've slowly gone back up a little bit, built a little muscle, and then I'm coming back down again just to get fully peeled, fully ripped. But yeah, it's been a hell of a process.
Yeah, so I read a quote the other day. It was something like, whatever you're not changing, you're choosing. So the
Oh,
situation where you
oh,
are.
that's a bar. That's a bar. Write that one down, y'all. Write that one down.
Yeah, right. It's so good because like you can stay in the situation you are, but don't fool yourself. You're choosing it. Like it's
100%.
not because people think always, like we think, I do it as well. Like if you're changing something, you're actually choosing something, but you're also choosing if you stay in the same situation, right?
Exactly. They're both equally a choice. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
So we talked a little bit about the fact that, yeah, you need to tailor the programs on each individual needs. Um, how do you effectively scale them up? Because is it just you add some weights, or I don't know, you change exercises? How does that work?
Yeah, priority number one with my clients is quality of movement. Are they demonstrating mastery over the descent or the negative? Are they demonstrating mastery on the way up? A little bit of form breakdown, if you're really getting after it, that takes kind of some nuance in a trained eye to be like, yeah, it wasn't robotically, mechanically perfect, but if it's like an 8 out of 10, a 9 out of 10, there's no risk. It looks safe. The way I do it is that example I gave earlier. We'll hit the same weight until we get a designated rep count. And then once we've gotten that rep count, we'll add weight and repeat the process. You can apply that to 90% of your exercises and make incredible gains for years and years and years to come. Some lifts might need a little bit more of a methodical process. Like if you do that on very taxing lifts like squats and deadlifts, that'll probably smoke you. So on those, maybe you're waiving the intensities over a 3 or 4 week period and then circling back to that previous intensity, but with a little more weight. That might take a little more nuance. For the most part, does it look good? Did it feel good? Did we feel it where we want to feel it? Are we hitting the target muscle group? Check all those boxes. Let's add some weight.
Hmm. So there is this new e-gym. I don't know if you call it the same, but basically you have the quality of movement that you said, and you have this graphics, and there's like this ball that goes up and down, and you have to respect it. And then it goes in negative sometimes. That when you're going down, it actually pushes the weight instead of doing the
Oh, yeah, yeah,
opposite.
yeah.
Huh? So I've been doing this, and it's like a circuit. But the thing is, like, I don't think it's enough. Plus, probably does more. It depends which ones they have in your gym. I guess in mine they have more arms than legs, and I see a lot of people they just do that, and I try to do it like twice
And
when
leg
there's,
day. The ultimate
like
sin, the cardinal sin in the weight room, skipping legs. My God.
it's like, and I try to do it twice per machine, because it's just feel it's not enough. And how do you actually, because I think it's good in terms of maintaining the quality of the movement instead of doing a normal machine where you cannot really, yeah, you can try, but maybe some people don't really know, they need a little bit more coaching. So what would you do in this case? Like, you have a set number of machines and they are all automatic with this system. Would you do them twice? Would you do them like one circle and then another one? Or I don't know
Hmm.
what else you can
Yeah,
do.
I think I've seen what you're talking about, but I'm not 100% familiar with the device. You're saying it's like heavier on the negative on the way down, and then it takes some resistance off as you're coming back up.
Yeah,
Oh,
so there
it's
is
kind of
the
cool.
first time you have to do the strength test, so it knows how much you can actually do, and then it
Hmm.
gives you a number of weight, a set one, which you can actually change if you want. And the first times you actually go like a normal machine. After sometimes it actually goes in negative. So it pushes when you go back and then it goes back. But when it goes back, they also ask you to do the strength test again.
Hmm.
It's a little
Yeah, it
bit
sounds
more in.
interesting.
Mm,
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see over the next few decades as technology gets more and more wild, what kind of cool ways they can incorporate like technology in the weight room. I'm sure more and more things like that will start popping up. But as far as how to incorporate it, me personally, I'm not super big on circuits or giant sets. That's actually, we were talking about mistakes along the way. It's not inherently bad, but I used to pride myself on a really short rest period. 90 seconds is all I need. I can put 4 or 5 exercises back to back and I'm still fresh. I'm good to go. But really all that was doing was furthering my conditioning abilities, which were already good. That's the reason I could do those in the first place. And it was kind of blunting or stagnating my strength abilities, because how are you going to track progress if you're doing like 3 or 4 or 5 things back to back? Like at each next exercise you get to, you're going to be carrying the fatigue from the previous one. So these days I've gone on the other extreme end. I like doing one set of one exercise and resting 2 to 3 minutes. Another set, 2 to 3 minutes. Another set, 2 to 3 minutes. It goes back to that boring thing we were talking about earlier. But for me, it's not boring because I have a specific rep count I'm trying to get every single set. So every single set of every exercise, there is a very specific mission that I'm trying to accomplish. But yeah, I'm big on straight sets, not getting too fancy or running around from exercise to exercise. The only situation I would say that is advantageous if someone's just really busy, like if they have 30 minutes, then yeah, let's put some things together. It might not be perfect, but it's better than doing 2 exercises in 30 minutes. But beyond that, I like one at a time. Your focus is going to be better. Your mind muscle connection is going to be better. The quality of the movement is going to be better because you're not in your head like, man, I got to do this other thing next. I better not smoke myself on this because I got to save some energy for this next thing. It's like you're just putting all your attention and energy into that one movement.
that's true. Sometimes I have that feeling. That's why I try to do that
Mm.
twice. The problem is like you may have people waiting for you, lining up,
Oh,
right? It depends how many people are there. But I think, I don't know. I still have to find a way to do them because I think it's good if you try to stay, in this, because you have some sort of tunnel and there you have to get the coins, it goes up and down. And so if you don't do the movement properly, regulating the muscles,
oh, I know what you're
you
talking
want,
about. I think I saw that on like a rower. Like you're like following this track and you're like trying
yes.
to go. It's almost like a video game. Yeah, I've seen it. It looks cool. It looks cool. I don't know how. I'd have to try it. I don't want to cast a judgment on it. I don't like to judge things I don't have experience on, so I'd have to mess with it. But it looks cool.
Okay. Yeah, then we will talk when you know a little bit more about it. Okay. So you said, so you mainly work in the gym, right? What is it so special about lifting?
Yes, that's a great question. Lifting, resistance training, weight training. There's all these things that come with that you just can't get from other kinds of activities like doing sports, tennis, um, soccer, other things that have that conditioning and cardiovascular component. Obviously, those are great, but the bone mineral density, you're not going to get that without weight training. just your muscular system hypertrophy, getting bigger, stronger muscles, which people hear that and they're like, well, I don't want to be like one of those 300-pound bodybuilders. It's like, there's a 0% chance of that happening, right? Unless you go on this psychotic uh, steroid cycle and eating ungodly amounts of food. Like, that was made fun of a lot 5 or 10 years ago. And then I started to think like, okay, everyone got that out of their system. No one actually thinks that, but I still hear that. I heard a grown man say that next to his wife. And I was like, dude, you're out of your mind. He's like, I just don't want to get too big. You know what I mean? I'm like, you won't. And you're not. You probably should want to get a little bigger. Like, getting bigger doesn't mean 50 pounds and now you're just this titan walking around. Like, gaining 5 pounds of muscle in a year is pretty significant, but to see your scale go up that slowly and incrementally, most people would be like, I don't, this is way too long. This is taking way too much patience. I got to go jump in that F-45 class or go do something different. So anyway, I was about to go on a little bit of a rant. The importance of weight training is the bone mineral density. It's working your muscular system. To me, lifting is becoming anti-frail, anti-fragile.
Hmm.
Like, someone that lifts for decades, I guarantee you in their 50s and 60s, if they fall, it's not going to be the same as if they didn't lift for decades and they fall in their 50s and 60s. Like, that's a real thing. So just being just being physically capable. Like, why would you not want to be physically capable? If I was somewhere and people bring up these scenarios, and granted they are pretty rare, like in everyday life, the way things are laid out, do you really need to be a monster to get through your everyday life? Not really. But if something came up, I'd hate to not be prepared. If something simple and innocent like moving a couch, I'd hate to be like, sorry, can't do it. Like, what do you mean we have to? Like, I literally need your help. No, I know, but I can't do it. They'd be like, what? Or like mobility wise, being able to move in a certain plane of motion, like, sorry, it's hurting my shoulder. Can you get it? Like, that's never going to be me. It's never going to happen. Any of my people, that's never going to be their story, is not being able to do anything, whatever it is that requires a certain level of physicality. And lifting, strength training, moving through big dynamic ranges of motion with weight, it just grants you all these gifts and superpowers that you can't really get doing other stuff.
Yeah, that's true. So, two things come to my mind. So, first of all, I remember I used to get injured when I would sprain my ankles. So, it happens to me often, even now. I don't know, for some reason, I'm too flexible. And when I trip,
Mm.
when the road is not perfectly, done, then I
Yep.
will trip and I will get really bad injuries for some time. And now, since some years, they even gave me like, the orthopedic gave me special soles, and I had to have special shoes because they would not fit and all those kind of things. And I did some research, and actually, you should not use those things forever unless you have like a defect that really makes, I don't know, you have a leg shorter than the other or something like that, really
Yep.
permanent. And now when I sprain my ankles, I just get, I have the ability to actually get up so fast that nothing happens. So when you said, like, when you fall and then something happens really bad, it's because you have not really trained. And I relate so much with that. And then the second thing is like, I like a lot of outdoor activities. I like to climb and do stuff. So
That's
and I
awesome.
did that. But the thing is, when I come back from the holidays, that I do all those activities, yes, I've been active. When I go back to the gym, I can feel it. It is different. The same applies reverse. So if you are just like a gym animal and then you go in the nature, well, you will probably die, because when you are doing certain things like a hike or climb, it's a little bit different than, doing the gym thing. But the reverse applies as well. So it's just crazy. Everybody talks about the fact that you will not survive in nature if you just do the gym, but it's also the opposite. Like, if you don't train single muscles, it's just, not happening.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually have a cool example on that. Not to put it back per se, but one of my longest running clients, his legs have gotten so freaky strong. freaky aesthetic. His quads are just like bursting out of his pants, whatever he's wearing. You can just see it, his calves, everything, right? So he hikes the Appalachian Trail every year. And
Wow.
2 trips ago, it was the first time he went since we had started training. He squats well over double his body weight, deadlifts well over his double body weight, can do lunges with a 70 in each hand. He weighs like 165, so pretty good stats for his weight. And when he got back, he was like, dude, I have never had that easy of a time hiking the trail. He's like, every step, I just felt my freaking leg musculature like flexing, like picking me up. He's like, I wasn't breathing hard at all. Now, if someone's heavier or they just have no cardiovascular abilities, they have horrible conditioning, you're right, they'll get smoked. If they go for a run or a long hike or even just swimming in the beach, they might get huffing and puffing, right? But as long as they have a decent baseline of conditioning, the bigger and stronger they are, um, muscle mass wise, they are going to have an easier time doing literally anything. Doing literally
That's
anything that requires physicality because it's just taking less out of you. If you have the muscle mass to go, X amount of distance, and this person has the muscle mass to go double that just because it's less, it's not smoking them as much. Like obviously that person's going to have an easier time. So you're right that both are needed. And if one thing is missing, you'll feel it when you go to do that thing. But I feel strength training, it being the foundation, will carry over into any physical endeavor you have. If someone trains intelligently and appropriately and they go to play tennis and they used to play tennis back in the day, but they didn't train, I guarantee you as they go to twist, they'll be like, oh shit, they'll just feel all this rotational power because they've been doing wood choppers or whatever it is, right? They got a strong core. Like the carryover is insane that you get from weight training to everything else that requires your body.
yeah, that's true. I mean, obviously, any kind of sport, if you come to the point where you really want to be competitive, yeah, you have to go to the gym. Doesn't matter what you're doing because you need to be fit as much as possible. That I believe also. But there's like, for normal people, they can either do one thing or the other. So sometimes I see, I don't know, people who just go to the gym and they don't do any kind of other activity. And then just people who hike and do nature, whatever. And then they don't train any kind of single muscle.
No,
And so that's where I see the difference. But also, I do multiple things at the same time because even when I was figure skating, yeah, of course you can do things, but once you go to the gym, you will see the benefits when you are on the ice. So I agree with you.
absolutely.
It is.
I
It
like what
is
you're saying though.
complementary.
Like a holistic approach is absolutely the way to go. Like leave no stone left unturned. We're already at the gym. If there's a few things you can add that are going to have you better prepared for this kind of activity or this kind of event, it's like it feels. This kind of goes back to the weight loss and the state of things of where I was when I was heavier. I could definitely lift heavier, and it was fun. Like just slapping on those freaking 45-pound plates back to back. Like it was fun. It felt good. But pull-ups were off the table, dips were off the table, even push-ups. This is what started to come into play with like the shame aspect. I had to guide our clients, the gym I used to work at, through this warm-up. Right when it was time to show them this little push-up fancy thing we had, I would start sweating. I was like, oh, I hope they can't tell this is hard for me. Like I need to show you, but also look away, but look a little bit so you know what I'm trying to show you, but like don't pay too much attention. Like my face would turn red. My palms are sweating just remembering that shit. Push-ups. Push-ups as a grown man working in a gym as a coach and a trainer were hard for me simply because I had I was just too big. I had too much excess body fat. My lean mass to fat mass ratio was totally out of whack. So really, one of the biggest things you can do to be well-rounded is just having a BMI gets hated on a lot these days. They think it's like not a good metric. For most people, it's still a good metric. Like if your BMI is way off, if your body fat's way high, anything that requires physicality is going to be inherently tougher. I have clients that are a little more well-rounded, and they might be neck and neck with someone like strength-wise, and then the person that they're a little heavier, they're a little bigger. When it goes time to do walking lunges or something that is going to have you breathing heavier, they're the percentage of weight they're using is like totally disproportionate to what they can do on the back squat. Like based on their back squat, they should be lunging with like freaking 80s, but maybe they're doing 30s or 35s. And this person was squatting way less than that, but they're lunging with like 50. So I'm totally with you on working single limb movements, single leg, single arm conditioning. Like, why not do it all? Why not just be a beast in all areas, in all facets?
Yeah, that's the goal, the final goal, I would
It feels
say.
good. If you and this is the thing too, like I don't want to pick on my clients too much. We'll just say for everyone. Um, if you roll up on an exercise and you inherently know that you suck at that exercise, it feels like shit. Like it's inherently defeating. You're like, why not have the ability to go up to any exercise, any machine, anything that you're going to have to do and feel good about it, feel confident, be like, okay, I'm about to F this up. Let's go. Like that's your emotional ups and downs are not going to be there. You're going to be very level. Like, oh, we're doing lunges. Cool. Oh, we're doing pull-ups. Cool. Oh, we're doing lateral raises. Like that was a big quantum leap for me for making gains and getting better results is holding every exercise in the same regard and the same importance. I can train freaking calf raises with the same level of intensity, focus, importance as I can my squat, my deadlift, whatever else. And back in the day, it was all about the big lift. And then whatever else came after that, I was like, whatever. This is just kind of that extra dumb shit. So, little golden tidbit for anyone. If you can hold every exercise in the same regard as far as importance and getting after it, like you're going to have better training, you're going to get better results. It's just going to be better.
I think I agree. I'm also thinking that some people, when they start, and I definitely was one of them, you're kind of overwhelmed. And you tend to go into the exercises that you can do best
Mm.
and kind of neglecting the other ones, which is wrong, of course. However, I think so. If you keep going on, okay, let's put this as the first requirement. So if you keep going on, it's okay at the beginning, whatever you can do, you do, but you have to be constant. Something I recently discovered, like I've been trained for many years in different sports and things, and I mean, at a decent point. And then I found out that I have like an imbalance in two specific parts of my body. And it's just small parts, two small parts, which I'm training right now. And I feel very weird doing those exercises that have been
Mm.
given to me because it's just like they're not things I've done. And the coach said, yeah, of course, you're doing something out of your comfort zone, which is good. But on the other side, because I have the other muscles working very well, I can alternate. So I don't feel bad all the time. And I'm thinking, if you feel bad all the time because you're uncomfortable doing everything or almost everything, then your motivation could go very down, right?
Yeah.
It's a double sword, you know?
Yeah. So that would really come down to your mindset and just your perception of things. For me, I associate discomfort with growth. I associate things that are very difficult as very rewarding. Like anyone in this life, your biggest highs, your biggest moments of I can't believe I did it is when that's true. When you can't believe that you did it. If it's something that you're shocked that you pulled off, it's because it's something that has been difficult for you for a very long time. It's incredibly rewarding. Like I have exercises that I'm super confident in doing, and they're fun. Like it's fun to get after it. But if I can add a rep to the thing that's the hardest for me, that's way more satisfying. That's way more rewarding. And just in life, staying at the same job you've had for years and not getting out of your comfort zone is inherently not rewarding. And putting yourself out there, chasing your dream or your career, like those moments and those wins, I mean, there's nothing like it. It's a very special feeling when you're witnessing yourself do something you didn't think you could. So I'd say that comes down to the individual and how they perceive it. And I have people coming to mind. I know people that when it is very difficult, when it gets in that pain zone, like a really high rep burnout type thing, and I actually do like higher reps in some cases for this very reason. the cap is very subjective. Like let's take your 20 rep max. If someone thrives in that pain zone and they're like, oh, that burn, that's like my midnight dream. I wish I could feel that burn 24/7. Like my heart pounding in my chest and I'm huffing and puffing and my whole body's trembling. Like that is one of my favorite experiences in this life. So my 20 rep max, I'm going to try and get it for 21 reps. I'll try and get 25. Someone else at rep 10, rep 11, they're getting uncomfortable. They're like, I just don't want this. I just want this uncomfortability to stop. And whoever has that person is pretty much a guarantee that they're going to not progress as far as the person that enjoys being in that pain zone, because that's where our greatest level up is on the other side of embracing that pain zone, that discomfort. So,
So is it black and white? Like if you don't have that, then you won't get it?
no, you won't go as far for sure, 100%,
And
100%.
how do you change that? Like what if these people want to actually reach the goal?
I mean, they just have to have that come to Jesus moment with themselves that I had with the weight loss and with many other things. Because to me, it's so undeniable. Like that example I just gave of having those big wins. And I mean, I remember passing my personal training certifications. I think about it now. It's like, yeah, whatever. The ones where the tests were difficult and I had to study, and it was things I didn't know per se, and I knew it was a time limit, and I'm like kind of nervous going to the testing site. That feeling of getting my first certification years and years ago and calling my dad and my wife saying she's so proud of me, like that meant the world to me. So I was doing something difficult. Now, if
Mhm.
I took that same test and know all the answers, it's like whatever. Like it doesn't mean the same thing. So when you make that association, now we're seeking out challenges, meaning you're getting out of your comfort zone often, not once a year or twice a year. Like you can get out of your comfort zone on a daily basis if you choose to, if you decide that's where your next level up is. And a lot of people, they're okay cruising. They're okay being on autopilot, just kind of doing the same thing. Well, I'm good with where I'm at. Maybe for some people it's true, but I think for most people it's the lie. They're just coping. They're saying if I tell myself I'm okay with where I'm at, well now it makes perfect sense that I wouldn't push into that pain zone because I've just affirmed to myself I'm all good with this. But they really ask themselves and just reflect on David Goggins. He has a great little mindset exercise for this. He calls it the cookie jar. You just go back in the cookie jar and reflect on an example like we're talking about, something you did that was difficult and you pulled it off. How did you feel? Pretty fucking good. There's a guarantee you felt pretty good. Doesn't matter what it is. Could be adding a rep to a lift. Could be talking to that girl or talking to that guy that made you nervous. And a part of you was like, maybe not. Maybe I'll try and find him later on the internet or some weird shit. It's like, no, just go talk to him. Just say hello. What's the literal worst thing that could happen? You get rejected. Is that the end of the world? And then if they don't get rejected and they hit it off, they leave that interaction. They're like, oh man, that felt good. Like I'm getting fired up just thinking about it. It's making me want to go do something today that makes me uncomfortable. Like these are the best highs. These are the best rewards. And I mean, if someone doesn't want that, I guess they just have to make peace with being stagnant,
So
being stale. Doesn't sound very good to me. Doesn't sound appealing.
yeah, so the challenge mindset would come even from failures, basically. So in the sense
Hundred
that
percent.
because you tried and because you failed, then definitely you will want to go for a next challenge that you can achieve, hopefully.
Yeah, it's a win-win. Either you succeed and that's positive, that's exciting, or you fail and you immediately know what not to do next time, which is a win. That's a huge victory. Like a win-win mentality, you can't go wrong with that. Like the worst thing could happen to me, and I'll flip it into a positive. I'll know what not to do. I'll know what not to say. I mean, imperfect action will trump no action every single time. Like getting into personal training, getting into a lot of stuff I do online these days, I spend years thinking about this shit. I spent years like, I wonder, well, would I talk like this? Or well, would I do it like this? I learned more in like one day of making videos. I remember I made
Doing
this reel.
it.
I was so excited about this freaking post. I had this cool before and after of me flipping this big tire behind the gym, and I was all fat, like my flab is jiggling every time the tire lands. And watching that video, that was another moment where I was like, I can't believe you look like that, right? So I saved that video knowing that I was going to lose all the weight, flip that same tire. Obviously, the tire weighs the same because it's not something you can change, just a heavy ass, like 400 or 500 pound tire. So I had this cool before and after. I'm chopping up the videos. I'm so excited. And I post a video. I'm thinking it's going to have just the best like engagement ever. People are going to be like, this is so cool. And it was kind of a dud. And as soon as I posted it, I was like, dude, it was just too long. Like it wasn't snappy enough. People like about 2 to 3 seconds per clip. I could have had some text. I could have had some captions going in and out, like talking through what this meant to me. There's so many things I could have done better to make this video pop right. Maybe a silly example if someone's not a content creator, but in that moment, I immediately knew, like, okay, well, I'll do this next time. And then you make that next video. Does a little better. Oh, you know what? That one clip was still too long. 3 seconds, they lose their attention. Go to 2 seconds. Change this, change that. Like, I'd almost rather fail and learn what not to do than just win and be, having my blind side. So,
Yeah, overthinking. They say it's like when you think too much about something, but you're actually doing nothing about it. It's like mental masturbation.
no,
You
it's the worst.
keep, yeah, you keep the. I know it very well as well. I have overanalyzed things. Of course, at some point, I've learned how to get into the game and just do it.
Yep.
Uh, but there's also differences, between men and women because like little girls, hopefully less and less, are kind of instructed to be perfect. And whenever you do something wrong, well, you get reprimanded worse than a boy.
Mm.
So that primes you to seek perfection instead of having 1,000 tries and see what works out and failing in between. So, and that's also
That's
why,
really
by the
interesting.
way, guys can be less affected by rejections
Mm.
than than girls because like you started when you were so young that it's fine, it's normal for you, so you can approach 1,000 girls and get like 90% of rejections and be
Yeah.
fine with it, but a woman would definitely not do it. After the second, third rejection would be like, okay, I'm not gonna do anything anymore.
Oh, it's really interesting. Yeah, that's a totally different psychology, and that makes a lot of sense with people I'm thinking of. Like going back to the gym example, if they get closer and closer to that point of failure, like I promote training to failure on damn near everything. If it's something very unstable, or like a back squat where your core is going to give out before your legs, maybe there's a different way to run that. But for the most part, I take every single set of every single exercise to failure. I've gotten the best gains ever doing that. My clients, since I started giving them that protocol, they all started making the best gains they ever have. So I'm a big fan of that. But as you're saying that, it's almost like, well, the closer I get to that failure zone, if the technique falls apart or if I start visibly struggling, people are going to see that I'm visibly struggling and like failing. So better to call it here while at least I'm kind of holding it together. That's really interesting. I'm glad that you brought that up. I'll have to keep that in mind. I'm going to
With
start
your women.
psychoanalyzing all my clients.
Yeah, everybody's different. I mean, it's not only black and white, there's also spectrum, and everybody has
Yeah,
a very complex psychology. So, as we said at the beginning, tailoring, it's also important because of those things, right? What triggers you most and what is actually exciting you. So, even learning yourself how you react at new things, at things that are increasingly challenging, then it makes the difference to really tailor your program on yourself.
100%.
We talk a lot about like going to the gym, doing a lot of exercise. Does it have to be every day at the gym? Does your life revolves around the gym?
Mine does. Mine does.
Well,
I live and
obviously.
breathe this shit. I go Monday through Saturday. And then Sunday, my wife asked me to stay home, and I'm like, of course. And I wake up even earlier at 3 a.m. and I'll
Wow.
go get everything done and come back before they wake up. And I'm like, yep, I've been here the whole time. And then she checks my Instagram story and realizes I was lying. So I go every day just because better is always better. That's just one of my go-to phrases, one of my go-to mantras. And after every single workout, I will have better thoughts. I will have a better attitude. I'll have better ideas. I'll have better creativity, better energy, better everything. So for me, the only downside of overdoing it would be kind of capping your results. Like I've definitely overtrained and done too much to where it's like, man, if I just pulled back a little bit, I could probably get stronger within the next 90 days versus trying to do two a days or trying to do too much and in 90 days I'm not as far. So the results are definitely always top of mind. Like let's get the best results possible. What does that look like? But for me, yeah, I like going every single day, but most of my clients train anywhere from 2 to 4 times a week. A lot of my longtime people I've had for 3 years now, 3 years and some change, they started out doing full body twice a week, and they all got ridiculously strong. Like full body twice, maybe 3 times a week, it is enough. Like you can get freaky strong because the advantage of that is every time you come in the gym, you're crazy fresh. You have hardly any fatigue from the last workout because the last workout might have been like 4 or 5 days ago. So there are some pros there, and for the very very busy individual, that might be a good option. There's someone that's pretty well known in like the online fitness space. He's a huge promoter of only twice a week, maybe 3 times. He kind of pulls it into this appealing way. Like, look, you don't have to live in the gym. You don't need your life to revolve around training. And a lot of people, they're like, okay, you have my attention. Like, that's what I don't want. And that can work for some people. But again, for me, the mental benefits, the emotional benefits, I just love it. I
Yeah,
love it. But
if
yeah,
you
people can make results doing 2 to 3 full body, 4 times upper lower. If they're going 5 to 6, they can start separating the body parts a little more. Or even some people do full body 5 or 6 days a week and can get good progress. It just makes creating the structure a little more complicated. But yeah, so the biggest thing would be let's say someone wants to get the biggest return with the smallest investment as far as time and energy goes. What are we doing when we're not working out? Someone that works out twice a week, but they track their food every day, they get 15 to 20,000 steps every day, they're going to have a drastically different result than someone that works out twice a week and the rest of the week they're not doing anything. Like that's just that's not going to work. That's not going to work. It's not appealing at all to me. Like only straining yourself physically twice a week and doing nothing else. Like that sounds horrible. That sounds horrible. And they're not going to get as good of a result. So
Yeah, there's a Latin saying that says like "mente sana in corpore sano," which means that your mind is healthy if it's in a healthy body. So we
mm,
know the benefits since long time about moving, and they were moving much more than we do, right? Because at the time they didn't have all the devices and things we have now.
yeah.
So I agree with you. Even like for me, I noticed when I was not doing it properly at the very beginning when I started training, doing it just less time but more frequently, it's better. And actually, having rest days was getting harder. But of course, I
Mm,
fell off the routine many times. So I know what happens sometimes. Like you just, the more you don't train, the more you don't want to train. So when you do like some breaks, 2 days, 3 days, it's actually harder to go back to the
mm.
gym than if you go every day.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm glad you said that. That's probably one of the biggest benefits of a higher training frequency is it's embedded more into your lifestyle. It's like it's not an event. It's not this thing I do every 4 or 6 days. It's like this is just what I do. It's as natural as brushing my teeth, breathing air. Like this is just a part of who I am. And the more you put in, the more you'll get out, but also the more you put in, the more priority you're going to have on those other factors. Like for me, if I took off a random 4 days in a row of not training, I guarantee the diet would start to slip I guarantee drinking would become a little more appealing again. I'd be like, I mean, I'm not really going to feel the negatives because I'm not doing shit tomorrow. So who cares if I'm hungover, right? So the more you invest into it, you're inherently wanting to see the return on that investment. So you're like let's say you lift in the morning and do an hour of cardio, you're way less likely to do something dumb with your diet because you're like, dude, I literally dedicated 3 hours to working out today and I'm going to throw it away by eating this piece of cake or whatever it is. Whereas if someone's working out very infrequently, they're not going to feel the weight of those decisions. They're inherently less invested, so they're going to be less invested into the diet, into the walking, the general activity, all the other things. So that's a great point you made. For me, as I work out more and more and more and more, I just like it more and more and more. Like I am indefinitely looking forward to visualizing and planning my next workout like forever. I always
Yeah.
have something to look forward to. Like I think about people that like traveling is their personality, those times where it's like that's their life is, oh, my next trip. And like they look forward to 3 or 4 trips a year. And otherwise it's just kind of whatever. I'm like, if it's a day that ends in Y, I'm inherently excited about it, looking forward to it. I wake up before my alarm goes off because I can't wait to jump out of bed and get this next workout going because it's my favorite thing to do. It feels great. Like I said, I think better. I feel better. There's so many benefits, and that's only increased the more my training is increased. So big advocate of just doing something every day. It doesn't have to be the gym, but doing something physical every single day is going to change your life.
Yeah. There's also I what I experienced is also this feeling that, let's say you go for a run every morning, it's just 15 minutes, doesn't matter. But once you start doing it, not only you think, oh, I did it, maybe I don't want to ruin it with a piece of cake, but you also start to feel that if you do eat that piece of cake the next morning, you will feel sluggish, you'll be heavy, you're slower, and you don't like that, because then you're like, oh, I cannot run, I cannot do those things. So you start feeling like, oh, I am aware that if I do this, then I will have issues the next day. And then your behavior starts changing a little bit.
100%, 100%. That's like people that stay up all night watching shows or playing video games, and they're okay going to work the next day being half brain dead because they're like, I'm just taking orders or whatever it is. Like, I don't even need that much brain power. They're not going to feel the massive drawback, the massive negatives of their decisions because it's not really impacting them that much. But you're absolutely right. If you always have that next workout or that next run and it can either feel good or it can feel great, it's like, well, I'm already doing it. What can I do differently to make this feel great, make it even more enjoyable? And that builds huge incentives on how to eat, what what to do and what not to do when it comes to eating and drinking. That's a huge point.
Yeah. So about alcohol, let's talk about this. 'Cause I do enjoy sometimes, occasionally white wine or
Now this
rosé.
podcast is over, and I'm just gonna go ahead.
Like how, because like people would like to drink a beer, drink maybe even super alcoholics. I don't know. How should we think about this?
From what you're saying, it sounds like you're the kind of person that can kind of take it or leave it. When you do have it, oh, this is very nice. This is enhancing this evening I'm having in a positive way. And because I'm managing it, not having too much, I'm gonna feel very little to no downsides the next day. If someone can do that, I would say more power to them. But it's kind of like the doctor's visit, right? Where they're like, all right, 2 drinks a week, right? And they're like, uh, yeah, exactly. It's like, who's having 2 drinks a week that actually drinks? Like people that drink and that's a part of their lifestyle, probably more than that, probably a lot more on the weekends. Like if they're partaking like the doctor recommended amount Monday through Friday, and then the weekends going off the rails, that total is, it could be like 20 or 30 drinks. And that's 100% going to have a huge negative on your clarity, on your moods, on your physical health, on your weight. For me, I tried to make it work in November and December of 2022. I'm trying to make it work. I'm weighing in every morning, Monday through Friday. Hey, weight's coming off. Tuesday, weight's coming off. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'm about to hit my goal weight for the end of the week. I would have a couple of drinks, nothing crazy. If I go on a bender and wake up the next day with a hangover and I gain some weight, it's like, I mean, you went crazy. You deserve that. But I would have like a couple of beers on Saturday and Sunday. And sure enough, that Monday morning weigh-in, I would be right back where I was 7 days ago. And I repeated that for a few weeks throughout the holiday season. And then one day it's like, this just isn't going to work. It's just not going to work. So a big part of that is weighing in on a daily basis. A lot of people talking about the doctor, they weigh themselves a few times a year, literally. I'm like, dude, that's crazy. And then they're like, oh, you will never guess what happened the other day. I went to the doctor and I was up 20 pounds. I'm like, how did you not know that? You didn't notice that you gained 20 pounds? So, like, well, yeah, all of my clothes got tighter and my face started looking different in pictures. And I haven't felt this good, but 20, that was shocking. It's like, how is that shocking? Like, how did you not know? But weighing in daily or weekly, I'm a huge advocate for that, just so we're not caught off guard. But yeah, drinking, I don't know. I am torn on it as we speak. Like you're talking about having a glass of wine. I remember just certain moments, certain evenings that they are a little more special. That's a part of it. I remember conversations. I remember special moments, and that was an element in that equation of that night, and it made it a little nicer. It did.
Hmm.
But what's the aftermath? What's the downside? What happens the next day and the next week? For me, since I let it go, there have been such it's been such a long list of upsides, so many advantages, so many benefits. And to me, the inverse is also true. If you partake on a regular basis, a decent amount, there's a huge list of downsides. There's a huge list of things that are now to your detriment. And my whole philosophy is pros and cons. Is it helping or hurting? Is it to your benefit or to your detriment? If you put alcohol on that scale, it's almost impossible to objectively say, no, this is a win-win on all accounts. It's just
Hmm.
not. It's just not.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, they'll say, yeah, I know that. I'm not dumb. I know that. I'm just going to keep doing it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wait, what? They're like, yeah, see, the whole thing is I understand that I'm ultimately worse off in 19 different ways, but I know that, so I'm still going to do it. And they're saying it as if it makes sense. And I'm like, do you hear what you're saying? But I mean, it's so embedded into culture. It's so embedded into just the adult lifestyle. Like, that's just what you do. That's what you do. I mean, since I stopped, my social circle for sure got smaller. My social ability got smaller, dwindled a little bit. Like, just going out is not as appealing. It's just like, what are we going to talk about? Like, you kind of realize meeting someone for a drink, you're not thinking, okay, because I'm meeting them, I get to drink. But unconsciously, subconsciously, however you want to look at it, like a lot of times that's what it is. Because you go to meet that same person, but you're not drinking. You're like, I don't really even want to see that person. It's like, well, that's not good. Like, I mean, yeah, that could be a whole podcast. We might have to do a round two just talking
Oh
about
God.
alcohol. We might have to do a whole nother episode on that. But I mean, for me, my life has gotten just so much better. 2023 was the most productive year of my life, the most transformative year of my life, the year of the biggest accomplishments, the most accomplishments, and there is no way that it's a coincidence that that was also the year that I stopped. And admittedly, I made a YouTube video about this recently. Like, I have tried to pick it back up since then because I'm like, okay, the whole point was we wanted to lose the weight, we lost the weight. Okay, the whole point was we wanted to, get to these areas of life. We got there, like maybe we can bring it back in. And I tried, and not to my surprise, all the same downsides were still there. Like it just absolutely wrecked my sleep. I'm just laying there feeling my heart beating in my chest. I'm getting hot under the sheets. I'm like, holy shit, I just want to go to bed. Like, was that worth it? Yes, I had fun. Yes, I felt good. But is that trade off worth it? If I'm just laying here staring at the ceiling fan, like praying to God to knock me out unconscious so I can sleep, to me, it's just not worth it.
Yeah. And I experienced something weird as well. I never really get drunk. Okay. And even then, you can hit like Because if you drink, let's say, one glass of wine every day, it becomes a habit. Maybe you
Yes.
don't start to do it every day, but then you kind of want to have the feeling. You don't get drunk because it's just one glass, but still you will have the habit. And at some point I had to stop drinking alcohol altogether because I was taking a medication that would make have some adverse reaction.
Mm.
Then because I couldn't, I didn't. And for a long period I didn't. And apparently I just didn't want to do it anymore. And it was weird because when I started again occasionally to drink, first of all, it was very strong, so I didn't need much. And then the
Right.
second thing is, yeah, and the second thing was like, okay, actually, I'm not quite sure I need this. Because once I started back, I started to have this feeling, this taste of having it again. And it was
Mm.
just like really the taste on your tongue, which is like super weird because, again, I'm not getting drunk. It's not because I want to get high, but it becomes embedded in your routines. And this is bad because it's free calories, first of all. And then, if you hit a certain amount, of course, there's 1,000 other reasons. You can look it up on Google if you really want to know all of them.
Yeah.
But and then it made me think, I still have the occasional beer, maybe even once a month or less, but it made me think a lot about being a habit and not just because I want it. And I think people who say, okay, I know the bad things of it, but I still do it. I mean, I'm not dumb. You said that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But have they tried to live without? Because that's the point. I think until you do not realize that it's just a habit that you could renounce very
Yeah.
easily. If you like, I don't know, for women, if you're pregnant, you cannot drink. And a lot of women are also smoking. And then apparently from one day to the other, they stop smoking. How do you actually do that?
No, no, no.
And they do it because it's bad if you're pregnant. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think
Yeah. Yeah.
if you want, you can.
No, I'm glad you're saying that because you had to stop and you had that season. Now you have an objective, honest perspective on what life is like without it. If someone's still partaking, they by definition cannot have an honest, objective point of view, a clear lens on the pros and cons because they're going to be biased. And you could say, oh, well, the same thing about the sober person because they're biased towards sobriety because they don't drink. So they just have to talk about how beneficial it is. I'm so tired of hearing these sober people talk about how great it is. I'm like, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. There's this group of people. They used to drink and now they don't. And with 100% accuracy, every single one of them is saying that their life is better since they stopped. But you're not holding their opinion or their viewpoint in like high regard. Like, yeah, but what do they know? They've only seen both sides of the equation. It's like, have you? They're like, well, no, I've always drank. It's like, well, that sounds like they have a better, inherently a better perspective than you do. So exactly what you said, like, it doesn't have to be for life. In fact, for a lot of people, the idea of I'll never drink again is such an overwhelming, crippling idea. They're like, you're scaring me just at the thought of it. Don't even say that out loud. Like they just can't handle it. So don't look at it that way. Just do an experiment. Do a 30-day, a 60-day, a 90-day experiment, and you can look up any YouTube video of anyone talking about I tried 1,000 days without drinking. Why I'm never going back. I went sober for a year. Why I'm never going back. And you will find a comment section of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people all saying the same thing. Since I stopped, my life got insanely better. My quality of life got better. My sleep got better. My relationships got better. My charisma, my commitment to becoming more in this life, like my drive, my testosterone. Again, the list goes on and on and on and on of benefits. People that have seen both sides, they're truly aware of those benefits. But if you're always partaking, you don't know. And then those people, they'll say, well, yeah, but if I'm not going to stop for good, what would be the point of even taking a month off? And I'm like, now you're making deals with yourself of why you can go without a thing for 30 days. Like, I think we're discovering that this is a problem. In my mind, in my mind, everyone has a drinking problem, not in the alcoholic extreme, like waking up in ditches and where am I? Not in that sense, but anyone that drinks to a regular degree has a drinking problem. The problem being they need to drink. And they'll say, dude, I don't need to. It's like, oh, let's take off November. It's not a good month for me. I got holidays. I got family coming in town. You want me not to drink? It's like, oh, well, let's try like a dry January. We'll make it like a New Year's thing. Now I got a trip coming up. I can't do that either. It's like, okay, I think we're arriving to this unescapable conclusion that the idea of going without scares the shit out of you. That's a problem. If it's a thing that has inherent negatives, which drinking does. If someone tried to flip that on me and be like, well, I bet you couldn't take a month off working out, I'd be like, yeah, that would just be stupid. There's no reason I would do that. That would come with a long list of downsides and no benefits. But not being able to take a month off of something that does have a long list of downsides and hardly any benefits, like that's going to be to everyone's advantage. So whether it be now, whether it be January, I encourage anyone just to challenge yourself. Make it a game. Don't make it this intense, sobriety thing and I'll never go without it again. Just make it a little challenge, make it a little test. I wonder what would happen. Don't even plan on it going well. In fact, plan on it going horrible. Play a little reverse psychology with yourself. Be like, oh man, this is gonna suck. I can't wait to get to the first of the next month and go back to it because this is gonna be such a shit show. Try that out. I guarantee you 2-3 weeks in, you're gonna be like, I feel better. My sleep is better. I have more energy. I'm excited again. I'm feeling like emotions like when I was a teenager, when I was just like bursting with hormones and chemicals. I'm excited about things because I'm not in this dulled, gray, like darkened space, right? So everyone should try it out at least once, and I guarantee you they're going to find something out. I guarantee it.
True, true. So you've been coaching for how long time now? 5 years?
5 years, yep.
So what is, just to wrap it up, your idea of the next 5, 10 years? Like what's your main interest to give impact?
Mm. Yeah, I've been thinking about this recently, actually, and it's changed a lot over the years, and I'm feeling it kind of circle back to my original intention and my original mission when I first got started with this. I just want, like we were talking about weight training earlier, like why it's important, regardless of age or sex or whatever they do, whatever other activities they're into. I really want lifting weights just to become normalized. I want it to be the most normal human thing that people do. I want being in great shape to be normal, not this reserved for fitness models or Instagram people or, oh, but isn't like bench pressing for football players? I just want it to be normal because that's such a huge block for a lot of people. They're like, well, yeah, but I'm not one of those workout guys. That's why I don't work out. How do you not get this? It makes perfect sense to me. I'm not a workout guy. That's why it's like, what does that even mean? Like, we're humans. We're humans with physical bodies that can either be in great shape, which means you'll be more confident, means you'll live longer, happier, healthier, like long list of upsides. This is just a human thing. Being fit, being strong, being conditioned, being athletic. There's some statistic I heard the other day, like beyond age 30, some crazy number, like 80 or 90% of people won't jump. Like they just won't
What?
jump. Like box jumps or jumping onto a bench, like they just won't do it for the rest of their life.
True.
And if they're not going to a gym, that's probably true. Like, why would you need to? You're not going to jump to the bed of your truck like just for shits and giggles. So the way things have happened over the last few decades, people get to their 20s and 30s, they're working their sedentary job. If they're not training, it kind of becomes a habit of, yeah, it's just what I do. I go to work, I come home, I sit down, I hang out. I want physical training, weight training specifically, to be so freaking normal over the next few decades. I want it to be so normal for every age group. I've trained clients as young as like 18, 19, all the way up to 76. I had a 76-year-old doing box squats to a 12-inch box, hips below parallel, perfect back angle, perfect chest angle. Just watching her do it, it's just in amazement. Like, this is what needs to happen. Like, these normal, foundational, just natural movements, squatting, hinging, twisting, pushing, pulling, pressing, right? Like, all these very normal things. I just want it to be normal. So that's a big part of my mission. Along the way, the more people I can inspire to be sober, I know for a fact their life will be better with less or little to none or no alcohol at all. So as I grow my brand and promote that message, the more people that walk that path with me, I know their life will be better. That's a significant concern of mine. Is people being in better shape. One thing in the workout world is like there's almost this lack of emphasis on that lean mass to fat mass ratio, on being in good shape, right? It's like as long as we're working out, you're doing your thing. It's like this can be so much more. Like I talk about the mirror a lot and aesthetics. It's not about after we get off this podcast, I go in the mirror and I'm just like, oh yeah, let's go. Like it's not that. You know what it is? It's looking in the mirror and not hating what you see. Who deserves that? You shouldn't look at a mirror and go and shudder. Oh, wait. If you're gonna take a picture, hold the phone from a bird's eye view and get. If it's not the perfect angle, you'll see my seven chins. It's like back to
Okay.
what we said earlier. That's a choice. So that's a big thing for me too. Like being in better shape has always been more enjoyable than being in worse shape, in my experience and anyone's experience. That's again seen both sides. That theme keeps coming up. You kind of have to see both sides. People that have always been a little overweight, they're like, "Well, what's the big deal? Is it really that important?" It's like, how would you know? How would
You
you
don't.
know? You never experienced this, so yeah, just making weight training normal, making being in fantastic shape normal, making mindfulness a normal practice, being aware of your own inner dialogue or the thoughts you're having on a regular basis to your benefit, to your detriment. Is it helping? Is it hurting? Can you work on being a more positive individual? Will that inherently enhance your life for the better? Of course, let's work on that. Like all of these things are what I want to give to the world.
Democratizing, basically doing exercise. I think some on this point there is something some gyms do, because I see a lot of men coming to the gym and not so many women. And the women
Mm,
that are there, I mean, there are some older women, but most of them are younger. And I'm thinking, why is this? Like, is it just because they don't want? But I feel like the man, the husbands, maybe is just better at making the time for that.
mm,
It's good that some gyms have also some, place where you can leave your kids. And for a lot of people, that could also be a problem. What do you do if you have kids at home and someone
yeah,
has to stay there, right? So maybe democratizing a little bit for everybody to find the time to do it. And if you can go to the gym to at least, do something else. Doesn't have to be just staying at home and sitting in front of the TV.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a huge um, let's just call it what it is, an excuse that people have. Like, I just don't have the time. If someone is working 16 hours a day, nonstop, and they have no choice but to do that, that person doesn't have time. That's not most people. And even then, they could, like, for me, if I was in that situation, I would rather sleep 6 hours instead of eight and work out for an hour, 90 minutes in the morning. Like, and I've done that. I've had jobs where I worked 10 to 10, not quite as extreme as 16 hours, but I've had jobs where I've done doubles most days of the week. And I went home, went straight to bed, woke up, worked out, went to work. I would do that as many days in a row as I needed to till the schedule leveled out or whatever needed to happen. But the time thing, it's like you're spending your time doing something. There's no way you're just grinding your face off from the second your eyes open until they close, and you're like, I just wish there was some way. And is it going to take some creativity? Is it working out at home? Is it fitting it into something? Like what can happen is just accepting that it can happen. That's unacceptable. Like you got to find a way to move your body, have that heart thumping, have your lungs working. I mean, everyone's highest quality of life is on the other side of intense physical training, proper diet, and proper mindset. That's my whole thing. Without all three of those, any human being is inherently having less of a high quality of life as they could. So you got to figure out a way to make it work. And if anyone wants to reach out to me on Instagram or any other platforms and they need help figuring out how to fit it in their schedule, or okay, what's the least I can do but still make it work, like that's a better starting point than nothing at all. I said before, I like training every day, and I'm pretty extreme with everything that I do in this space, in the workout space. And for a lot of people, they just kind of check out. They're like, well, that's just not me. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be you, but some kind of training, it has to happen. It has to happen if you want to live your best life. And if someone's like, well, I don't want that, I mean, that's a whole nother, that's got to be episode 3 after we do the alcohol one. Like, we gotta go deep in the mindset. If someone is choosing not to live their best life, that, I mean, that's self-worth. That's some self-love that's massively missing. That's a whole nother can of worms. But
True, true. Eli, thank you very much for being here with me today, talking about all those very important topics. Um, I thank you a lot, and I wish you a very good weekend.
thank you so much. This has been great.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, take care.